The fall of the House of Usher is a tragic reminder that the rich are powerful but not immortal, and that the sins of the father carry across generations. I feel lately that we've seen a lot of nepotism in Hollywood, and it's so much so that the general public is starting to take notice and question why can't we find actors outside of families who already exist in Hollywood, which is an absolutely valid question. And time again, we see the children of successful people outside of Hollywood become successful not based on merit, but based on their family name. It often makes people wonder if they've got any real chance in life, or if life is just about who you know and not what you know or what you do. We often think of the rich as people who have sold their souls for their fortune, not like their literal souls or anything, but the metaphorical implications of their wealth. Who did they have to step on? And what cost did the general public or the people around them or they themselves, what cost did they have to pay for their success to be realized? And this is what is obviously exemplified in The Fall of the House of Usher by Mike Flannigan on Netflix. But before we continue, if you could click the like button and subscribe, it really helps out the algorithm for my channel. Now let's take a look at The Fall of the House of Usher. We first meet Roderick Usher, the patriarchal villain of the story and the arbiter of a substantial estate built upon an opioid mountain. He is explaining to our anti-hero, Dupine, after all these years that he is finally ready to confess his sins. After being able to skirt justice for decades, it seems that Roderick is finally willing to be held accountable. And after decades of attempting justice, Mr. Dupine is more than willing to have a seat and listen. Roderick begins an unbelievably convoluted story about his 6 children in order to explain how each one of their Final Destination-style deaths can be attributed to him. He explains that their deaths all have a causal link that has doomed them to the afterlife. A promise was made long ago, and Roderick Usher must now pay his dues. Each of Roderick's children were promised to an inhuman entity in exchange for wealth and power beyond measure. You could say Roderick made a deal with the devil, really. The Fall of the House of Usher is undoubtedly a creepy, brutal commentary on human consumption. That much is obvious. But I also think that it could be an allegory for the 7 deadly sins. And I know I can hear moans and groans already. The 7 deadly sins has been done, admittedly, to death. But I think that it has some validity here, and so I'd like to explore it. I like reading into deeper meanings and works and coming to my own conclusions, so let me just explain. Let's start with the youngest child, Perry's death. Perry is a character that is extreme in his sexuality. It's anywhere and everywhere. He even wants to open a bar, and as a pitch to his own father, explains that the bar is nothing like anyone has ever seen before, but basically it's just a big-ass orgy for rich people. In an attempt to showcase his business prowess, he throws the party of the century, which again is just a big orgy in the warehouse that his father used to own. It used to be Fortunato's warehouse. His magnum opus to this party is to rain water down onto the partygoers, increasing the sensuality and creating the perfect atmosphere for his lust-filled party. However, plans change, and when Verna intervenes, the devil herself, the rain turns to acid, killing everyone in the warehouse, including Perry. So Perry's deadly sin is lust. The second child, Leo, exhibits gluttony. He is a video game entrepreneur and has built his platform around playing video games and just garnering a lot of respect and love and adoration from his fans. Leo also constantly uses drugs, and he has a desperate need for his fans to love him. He has a very overindulgent personality, and he can't get enough of anything. Ultimately, he has a psychotic break when he buys his boyfriend a new cat after unaliving his old cat in an inebriated stupor. The new cat climbs through the walls as Leo attempts to grab onto it to get rid of it. He ends up going over the railing of his apartment building after trying to attack the cat while it was sitting on top of the railing. The third death, Camille, represents the sin of envy. Camille is cutthroat and knows very well how to spin a story. It's the thing that she brings to the table as an usher. She seems incredibly envious of Victorine, her sister. Camille attempts to dig up dirt on Victorine so that she can go back to her father and prove that Victorine is the spy amongst them. Even her assistant asks the question why Camille is so focused on her sister's downfall. Ultimately, Camille gets caught up in her envy, and when she goes to visit Victorine's lab, she is viciously attacked by a loose chimpanzee. The next death in the story is Victorine. Victorine has been tasked by her family with developing a medical device that will continue to allow a heart that cannot beat to beat. This essentially means that presumably someone with extensive heart damage would be able to still live a long, happy, and healthy life with this device. She tests the device over and over again on the chimpanzees in her lab, not ever getting a clear enough result for it to be promised that she can start human trials. It is clear throughout our time with Victorine that she relies mostly on her partner, Allie. Allie is the true brains of the operation, making Victorine sloth. She wants all of the work and credit for the work, but she doesn't do much of the work. When Allie realizes Victorine is willing to do anything, including jeopardize her good name by forging her signature on falsified data, she threatens to out Victorine. Victorine accidentally kills Allie while in a fit of anger. Feeling terrible about what she's done, she ultimately unalives herself by stabbing herself in her own heart. Next is the death of Tamerlane. Tamerlane has attempted to open a healthy business venture to give the Usher name a new path to walk down. Instead of putting all their work and time into something that is making people sicker, they're attempting to rebrand. Tamerlane was structuring the business around her husband. He was the face of the brand. And then she got greedy and wanted to be the sole owner of the brand and to brand herself into the brand. This leads to her untimely downfall as she is working so hard that she no longer sleeps. This lack of sleep leads her to believe that her faithful husband has been cheating on her with a lookalike. She sees this woman everywhere, including in her own home. She freaks out at a presentation and after she heads home. The woman she's seeing in the mirror isn't her, so she attacks the mirrors with a fire poker. A mirror above her bed is ultimately her downfall. The last Usher child to die is Frederick. Frederick, who shares a daughter with his wife Maury, is thrown for a loop when he finds out that his wife has lied to him about where she went on the fateful night of Perry's death. Turns out she was at Perry's party. She suffered acid burns and is left scarred but alive. When Frederick finds out where she was, he loses it. He ends up bringing her home to his house for care. He drugs her and tortures her while she's totally helpless. He is very clearly wrath. When Frederick orders the building in which Perry had his party to be demolished, he ends up in the building when the wrecking ball comes crashing down. And that leaves us with the last of the Ushers, Madeline, Roderick's sister, his granddaughter Lorna, and Roderick himself. Madeline and Roderick are both pride. It was always about playing the part, getting what they deserved, their birthright, never having to bow down to anyone, and doing whatever it took to get there. Lorna, on the other hand, is more complicated. I think she was just an angel caught in the crossfires of a sinful family. She was the only person not tainted by wealth, along with her grandmother Annabel Lee, who is referenced several times within the story. There are also several biblical references when Roderick and Madeline speak about their childhood and their mother, stating several times that she was biblically knowledgeable and that she lived her life by the Bible. So it's not as if I'm just pulling this out of absolutely nowhere. When the Ushers made the deal with Verna, it was clear that they thought she was just a lunatic. I don't have any reference for who she is or what she is. I think it should be said that she could possibly be the devil, though. But then, I don't know, because the devil doesn't or shouldn't feel bad about what the devil does. And Verna does seem to feel bad when she has to unalive Lorna, the granddaughter. This story was originally a work from the writer Edgar Allan Poe, and it does a masterful job at evoking a sense of dis-ease within the reader, and in this case, the viewer. The story doesn't embody or create a dreadful feeling. It is about a dreadful feeling, the dreadful feeling that your loved ones will die, the dreadful feeling that you will die. And I loved this work. I really like Mike Flannigan. He's an excellent director, and I can't wait to see his next work. So that's all I've got for you today. Remember to please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Get together more often. It's just a balm for the soul.